Over the past 4 years, home prices across America stopped following any rational script. They didn't just climb, they erupted, detaching from fundamentals and leaving millions of buyers watching from the sidelines. Bidding wars became the norm. All cash offers crushed first-time hopefuls, and entire markets that once felt accessible transformed into playgrounds for investors and wealthy transplants. But 2025 is different. The fever has finally broken. Across the country, home prices are reversing course. Not everywhere and not all at once, but in key markets where the surge was most extreme, the descent is unmistakable. Developers overbuilt, buyers stretched too far, and the economic headwinds that everyone assumed would blow over have instead intensified. Interest rates remain stubbornly high. Layoffs are mounting, and the belief that home values only go up is cracking under the weight of reality. In 13 major U.S. markets, prices aren't just cooling, they're dropping, sometimes dramatically. For sellers, it's panic. For buyers, it's the first real opportunity in years. If you want to understand what's actually happening in the American housing market right now, hit that subscribe button, because today we're counting down 13 markets where home prices are falling and breaking down exactly why it's happening. Let's dive in. Number 13. Boise, Idaho. Boise's fall from grace is stunning in its speed. Just 3 years ago, this mountain town was the hottest housing market in America. Californians and Seattleites flooded in with remote work flexibility and Bay Area money, sparking bidding wars that sent median prices soaring past $550,000. Locals were priced out overnight. Developers raced to cash in, throwing up subdivisions across the valley at a pace the city had never seen. But by 2025, the bubble has popped. Home prices have tumbled roughly 11% year over year, and inventory is piling up fast. Homes that once received a dozen offers in a weekend now sit unsold for months. The core issue is simple. The migration wave that fueled the boom has reversed. Remote work policies tightened. Tech layoffs hit hard. And many of those out-of-state buyers who drove prices into the stratosphere have quietly returned home, leaving behind half-empty subdivisions and regretful decisions. Boise's local economy, built on healthcare, education, and small business, was never designed to support $500,000 starter homes. Wages didn't rise with housing costs, and now the market is paying the price. Builders who broke ground during the frenzy are stuck completing projects no one wants. Some developments are being sold at steep discounts just to move units. For investors who bought at the peak, the math has turned brutal. They're either holding on to depreciating assets or selling at a loss. Boise remains beautiful, the foothills, the river, the lifestyle, but the affordability that once defined it is gone, and so are the buyers willing to overpay. Number 12. Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix was the embodiment of Sunbelt confidence. Population growth seemed unstoppable. Corporations relocated headquarters. Retirees and young families alike poured in from colder, pricier states. Housing couldn't be built fast enough, and prices climbed accordingly. But in 2025, Phoenix is facing a painful reckoning. Home prices have dropped about 9%, and the market is flooded with inventory. Subdivisions in Chandler, Glendale, and Mesa that used to sell out in weeks now have rows of completed homes sitting vacant. The problem isn't demand disappearing entirely, it's that supply exploded beyond what the market could absorb. Developers, convinced growth would never slow, built tens of thousands of units in a short window. Now they're competing with each other in a race to the bottom, slashing prices and offering incentives that were unthinkable 2 years ago. At the same time, Phoenix's cost of living has surged. Utilities in the desert heat are expensive. Water scarcity is becoming a genuine concern. And as climate awareness grows, some buyers are reconsidering whether Arizona's long-term livability justifies the investment. The job market, while still decent, has cooled. Major employers are freezing hiring. Migration from California has slowed dramatically, and the investor frenzy that propped up demand during the pandemic has evaporated as returns dried up. Phoenix isn't collapsing, but it's correcting hard. The city built for 10 million people while barely supporting 8, and the consequences are now unavoidable. Number 11. Las Vegas, Nevada. Las Vegas has always lived on extremes, and the housing market is no exception. For years, it was the ultimate escape valve for Californians fleeing high costs. No state income tax, relatively cheap homes, and year-round sunshine made it irresistible. Prices surged. Investors gobbled up properties. The future looked bright. But by 2025, the shine has faded. Home prices have fallen roughly 10%, and the market is oversaturated. Subdivisions on the outskirts of Henderson and North Las Vegas sit partially empty. Investors who bought hoping to flip or rent are now stuck with properties worth less than they paid. The core issue is that Las Vegas's economy remains fragile. Tourism, the city's lifeblood, hasn't fully recovered. Casinos are hiring fewer workers. Convention traffic is down. And the service sector jobs that employ most residents don't pay enough to support homes that still average over $400,000. At the same time, thousands of short-term rental properties are being dumped onto the market as Airbnb income collapses. Owners who counted on steady cash flow from tourists are bailing out, adding to an already bloated inventory. The desert sprawl that defined Vegas's growth is now working against it. Commutes are long, infrastructure struggles, and as remote work fades, fewer people see the appeal of living an hour from the Strip. For buyers, it's an opportunity. For those who bought at the peak, it's a slow-motion disaster. Vegas is learning once again that what rises fast can fall just as hard. Number 10. Austin, Texas. Austin's transformation from quirky college town to tech hub was supposed to be the American dream realized. Tesla, Oracle, and a flood of startups turned the city into Silicon Hills. Home prices tripled in some neighborhoods. Cranes dominated the skyline. Austin felt unstoppable. But in 2025, the dream is cracking. Home prices have dropped around 8%, and the market is cooling faster than almost anywhere in Texas. New developments in Pflugerville, Round Rock, and South Austin are sitting unsold. The tech foundation that powered the boom has fractured. Layoffs at major firms gutted the high-income buyer pool. Startups that relocated during the pandemic are quietly closing or moving again. And the remote workers who fled California are either returning or discovering Austin's cost of living isn't the bargain it used to be. Property taxes in Texas are among the highest in the nation, and as home values soared, so did tax bills. Many owners are now paying $15,000, $20,000, even $30,000 annually just in property taxes. Combined with rising insurance costs and a cooling job market, the financial pressure is immense. Builders who bet big on Austin's growth are stuck. They built luxury homes for tech salaries, but the tech workers aren't coming anymore. The market is flooded with high-end inventory, while affordable homes remain scarce. Austin still has its culture, its music, its energy, but the affordability and opportunity that once defined it are gone, and the market is adjusting accordingly. Number 9. Salt Lake City, Utah. Salt Lake City's housing boom caught many by surprise. Nestled between mountains and offering access to world-class skiing, the city attracted outdoor enthusiasts, tech workers, and families seeking a blend of nature and urban life. Prices surged past $600,000 for single-family homes. Development sprawled into surrounding counties. But by 2025, the momentum has stalled. Home prices have fallen about 7%, and inventory is climbing. The issue is twofold: overbuilding and affordability limits. Developers flooded the market with new construction, assuming demand would keep pace. It hasn't. Utah's wage growth, while solid, never matched the housing appreciation. Many locals have been priced out entirely, and the out-of-state buyers who drove the surge are pulling back. Interest rates have made borrowing expensive. The tech sector, which fueled much of the demand, has contracted. And as remote work becomes less common, fewer people are willing to relocate to a city where winter air quality and summer heat are growing concerns. The surrounding suburbs, Draper, Leahy, West Jordan, are seeing the sharpest declines. Homes that sold within days during the pandemic now linger for months. Sellers are cutting prices and offering concessions just to attract interest. For buyers with patience, it's the first real opportunity in years. For sellers who bought at the peak, it's a sobering moment. Salt Lake City remains one of the most beautiful metros in America, but beauty alone doesn't pay the mortgage. Number 8. Tampa, Florida. Tampa rode the pandemic wave harder than almost any market in Florida. With Miami's prices spiraling out of control, Tampa became the more affordable alternative. Remote workers, retirees, and investors poured in. Prices in neighborhoods like South Tampa, West Chase, and New Tampa doubled in some cases. But in 2025, the tide is going out. Home prices have dropped roughly 9%, and the market is flooded. Builders who raced to meet demand now have subdivisions sitting partially empty. The problem is multifaceted. Insurance costs in Florida have exploded, with premiums tripling or quadrupling in some areas. Homeowners are paying $10,000, $15,000, even $20,000 annually just for coverage. Combined with rising HOA fees and property taxes, the total cost of ownership has become unsustainable for many. At the same time, climate concerns are growing. Hurricane Ian's devastation is still fresh in people's minds. Flooding risks are being reassessed. And as insurance companies pull out of Florida entirely, buyers are getting nervous. The investor frenzy has also collapsed. Out-of-state buyers who snapped up properties sight unseen are now trying to unload them. Many are taking losses just to exit. The short-term rental market, once a gold mine, is oversaturated and underperforming. Tampa still offers a lot: beaches, culture, no state income tax. But the cost-benefit equation has shifted. For the first time in years, buyers have leverage and sellers are feeling the squeeze. Number 7. Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina. The Research Triangle was supposed to be immune. With world-class universities, a booming tech sector, and a steady influx of educated workers, Raleigh-Durham felt like a safe bet. Prices climbed steadily, and the market remained hot even as others cooled. But by 2025, cracks are showing. Home prices have dipped about 6%, and inventory is starting to pile up. The issue isn't economic collapse, it's overconfidence. Developers built aggressively, assuming growth would continue indefinitely. New subdivisions in Cary, Apex, and Wake Forest are competing for a shrinking pool of buyers. At the same time, interest rates have made borrowing expensive. Tech hiring, while still decent, has slowed, and many of the buyers who relocated during the pandemic are reassessing whether North Carolina offers the value they expected. Property taxes, while lower than some states, have risen sharply as home values surged. Insurance costs are climbing too, and the infrastructure, roads, schools, utilities, is straining under the weight of rapid growth. For buyers, it's a shift worth watching. Raleigh-Durham still has strong fundamentals, but the days of automatic appreciation are over. Sellers who expected quick sales are having to adjust expectations. The market is cooling, and in a region that prided itself on stability, that cooling feels more significant than the numbers suggest. Number 6. Nashville, Tennessee. Nashville's rise as a cultural and economic hub was nothing short of meteoric. Music City attracted everyone: musicians, tech workers, healthcare professionals, and tourists who decided to stay. Home prices soared past $500,000. Cranes filled the skyline. The city felt electric. But in 2025, Nashville is losing steam. Home prices have fallen about 8%, and the market is softening across the board. The problem is that Nashville overbuilt for a lifestyle that fewer people can afford. Wages in Tennessee haven't kept pace with housing costs. The creative class that gave the city its identity is being priced out, and the transplants who fueled the boom are realizing that Nashville's cost of living now rivals the cities they fled. Developers built luxury condos and high-end subdivisions, while the demand for affordable housing went unmet. Now those luxury units sit unsold, and builders are slashing prices to move inventory. The investor wave has also retreated. Short-term rentals that once thrived on tourists are now struggling. Airbnb income has plummeted as the market became oversaturated. Owners are selling, adding to an already crowded market. Nashville still has its music, its food, its energy, but the affordability that made it accessible is gone. The market is correcting, and for a city that built its brand on authenticity, the correction feels like a reckoning. Number 5. Denver, Colorado. Denver's housing market was a darling for years. Proximity to the mountains, a booming economy, and an outdoor lifestyle made it irresistible. Prices climbed past $650,000 for single-family homes. Bidding wars were standard, but by 2025 the market has shifted. Home prices have dropped roughly 7%, and inventory is rising. The reasons are layered: Colorado's cost of living has become prohibitively expensive. Property taxes have surged. Utilities, especially in winter, are costly. And as remote work fades, the appeal of living in Denver while working elsewhere has diminished. The tech sector, which drove much of Denver's growth, has pulled back. Layoffs have hit companies across the Front Range, and the transplants from California and Texas who once flooded in are now looking elsewhere or heading home. Builders who bet on Denver's endless growth are now sitting on unsold inventory. Developments in Aurora, Thornton, and Castle Rock are offering incentives just to attract interest. The suburban sprawl that defined Denver's expansion is now a liability. Commutes are long, infrastructure is strained, and as traffic worsens, the quality of life that once justified the cost is eroding. Denver remains beautiful, but beauty doesn't pay the bills. The market is correcting, and for those who bought at the peak, the adjustment is painful. Number 4. Portland, Oregon. Portland's housing market thrived on its reputation as a progressive, livable, creative city. But by 2025, that reputation has taken serious hits, and so have home prices. Values have fallen about 9%, and the market is struggling. The reasons go beyond economics. Concerns about crime, homelessness, and governance have pushed buyers away. The city's appeal as a destination has faded. Remote workers who might have chosen Portland are opting for other cities. Californians who once drove demand are staying home or choosing different states. At the same time, Oregon's tax burden has increased. The cost of living has climbed while wages stagnated. And the cultural vibrancy that defined Portland has dimmed as businesses close and residents leave. Developers who built condos and apartments downtown are facing vacancies. Suburban markets in Beaverton and Hillsborough are cooling as well. Inventory is rising, and sellers are cutting prices to compete. For buyers, it's an opportunity. For Portland, it's a reflection of deeper challenges. The city that once symbolized livability is now grappling with whether it can reclaim that identity. The market is waiting to see. Number 3. San Francisco Bay Area. If any market symbolizes the collapse of the pandemic housing boom, it's the Bay Area. Home prices have dropped around 10% in San Francisco proper, with even steeper declines in suburbs like Oakland and San Jose. The tech exodus that began in 2020 never reversed. Remote work stuck, companies downsized office space, and high-income workers who once had no choice but to live in the Bay Area are now thriving elsewhere. At the same time, the cost of living remains crushing. Property taxes, insurance, utilities, and maintenance make ownership a financial grind even for high earners. The quality of life concerns, homelessness, crime, traffic, failing infrastructure, have intensified. Buyers who might have tolerated these issues when the Bay Area was the only tech hub are no longer willing to pay a premium. Inventory is rising, sellers are offering concessions, and homes that would have sparked bidding wars 5 years ago are sitting unsold for months. The investor class that once propped up demand has moved on. International buyers have pulled back, and local buyers are either priced out or uninterested. San Francisco still has its beauty, its innovation, its culture, but the fundamentals no longer support the price tags. The market is correcting, and the correction is deep. Number 2. Seattle, Washington. Seattle's housing market is unraveling in slow motion. Prices have fallen about 9%, and the tech layoffs that started in 2023 are still reverberating. Amazon, Microsoft, and a wave of startups have shed thousands of high-income workers. The buyers who sustained Seattle's housing boom are gone. At the same time, the cost of ownership has soared. Property taxes have climbed. Insurance is more expensive. Maintenance on aging homes in Seattle's rainy climate is costly. And the quality of life that once justified the expense has eroded. Commutes are brutal. Infrastructure is strained. And concerns about crime and homelessness have pushed families to the suburbs or out of state entirely. Builders who bet on Seattle's growth are now stuck with unsold inventory. Developments in Bellevue, Redmond, and Tacoma are offering deep discounts. The market that once felt bulletproof is now fragile. For buyers, it's the first real opportunity in a decade. For sellers, it's a harsh reality check. Seattle remains one of the most beautiful cities in America, but the numbers no longer add up. Number 1, Honolulu, Hawaii. At the top of the list sits a market few saw coming. Honolulu. home prices have dropped roughly 12%, the steepest decline on this list. The reasons are unique. Tourism, Hawaii's economic engine, remains inconsistent. The cost of living is the highest in the nation, and the remote work wave that briefly made island living feasible has faded. Mainlanders who bought during the pandemic are now selling, often at losses. The local population, already priced out, can't fill the gap. Inventory is rising, luxury homes sit unsold, and the investor class that once saw Hawaii as a safe haven has moved on. At the same time, climate concerns are mounting. Rising sea levels, hurricane risks, and insurance challenges are making buyers nervous. The paradise premium that once justified any price is being questioned. Honolulu remains breathtaking, but the market is correcting. And for the first time in generations, the dream of owning in Hawaii feels further away than ever. Across America, the housing market is shifting. Prices are falling, buyers are gaining leverage, and the assumption that values only go up is crumbling. These 13 markets are leading the way, and the lessons they're teaching will shape housing for years to come. If this breakdown helped you see the bigger picture, make sure you subscribe and share this with anyone navigating today's market. The landscape is changing, and understanding where is the first step to knowing what comes next.